Before the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and Thor, Marvel Comics was referred to as Atlas Comics. And this was an era that has not been reprinted very much by Marvel lately. In the year 2024, they've kind of gotten out of the game, especially non-superhero material from that era. But they farmed out the ability to reprint this material to Fantagraphics. And the first release that they had was Adventures into Terror. And that is the horror comic that I'm showing off today. Stay tuned and watch this video. And we're back. My name is Taylor. This is Taylor Talks Comics, and I am showing off a different horror comic or horror comic related topic every day of October. You don't want to miss out on any of those, so make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and go to my playlist. I have a playlist set up called Halloween Horrors 2024, showing off all the videos I've shown off so far this month. So today's horror comic is going to be Adventures into Terror. This is Atlas Comics Library number 1. Volume 1 of Adventures into Terror. I'll explain that in a second. This collects the first 8 issues of Adventures into Terror from Atlas Comics. Like I said in the preamble of this video, before Marvel, it was called Atlas Comics, and then they changed their name early in the 1960s. So a lot of that 1950s material is going to be what is collected in the Atlas Comics library. So what they're doing, what Fantagraphics is doing, is collecting it. Each volume is going to be a different volume of the Atlas Comics library, but then they're also collecting it as Adventures into Terror Volume 1. So presumably there'll be Adventures into Terror Volume 2, and I'm not sure how long that series lasted. I think maybe Volume 2 or 3 will be the last one. But there will be future Atlas Comics libraries volumes, and that is also indicated here on the spine as well. So Atlas Comics Library Volume 1, and then Adventures into Terror Volume 1. So when those feature volumes of Adventures into Terror come out, you can put them on your shelf next to this one, or you can put them all in order of the Atlas Comics library. Kind of have a couple options there. And this is the back cover, showing off some of that great 1950s era artwork. This book was designed, let me see, by Ryan McArdle. It's a great work by Ryan McArdle. There's some great end papers here, showing off that Atlas logo blown up. Right there, that's the Atlas logo. We're kind of showing it blown up, that kind of globe aspect to it. And the back end papers is the same, but the Atlas is up here. And then it's all done on this really thick matte paper too, which is great. There's the opening title page, and then we have this title page. And then here's the great table of contents. So the table of contents we have, you can see there's going to be an introduction by Dr. Michael Vassallo, which I'll talk about in a second. And then you get the Adventures of Terror Volume 1, which has issues number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then the creators, little creator bios at the end. So what they've done as far as credits go is that they've credited as much as they can. There's been a lot of researchers, including Dr. Michael Vassallo, that have tried to give credit to each story of these. Even before this Atlas Comics library existed, they were trying to credit all of the Atlas era stories, just to preserve comic book history. So there'll be, as much as they know, so like on Monster Awakes, they don't know the writer, but they know the art was by Russ Heath. The Unknown Partner, art by Ed Winiarski, and Unknown. And then it says there'll be a question mark if they're not sure if they think that's who the artist was. Like right here, George Klein on inks. They think it was him, but they're not quite sure. A lot of this is, this is 70 plus years old comic book history. But you'll see such creators in here as Russ Heath, George Klein, Gene Colan is in here, Hank Chapman, Basil Wolverton, which is one of my favorite artists of all time. We got Joe Sinnott doing a story, which Joe Sinnott famously inked a lot of like Jack Kirby, and then also inked a lot of Fantastic Four post Jack Kirby. But here's him drawing and inking a story, which is fun to see. Saul Brodsky's in here. I'm trying to think. Joe Manili, I think, has a story in here as well. Joe Manili, yeah, Going Down. So here's the great introduction by Dr. Michael Vassallo, and I think worth the price of admission for this book alone. Dr. Vassallo is like the one pinnacle, the number one historian on Atlas era comics. And he's written a lot of introductions in the past. Like he's written introductions for Marvel when they've reprinted this material, and any sort of reprint or book about Atlas Comics, kind of talked about. But this is like a very extensive introduction with a lot of great ephemera and pictures of like the comics code and what was happening after Frederick Wortham wrote his nonsense, with some panel examples of things that Dr. Wortham's pointed out. Different logo treatments by Marvel Comics and Atlas. Here's a Horror in the Nursery, an article about Frederick Wortham and comics with a silly reenactment by children, which is that kind of historical context I just love. Here's some ads from Atlas Comics, which is fun to see. Timely Comics is what Marvel and Atlas was called before Marvel or Atlas. So you get that logo there. What parents don't know about comics. So there's another, that article right there by Frederick Wortham is in it wasn't called the Journal. It was like the Ladies' Home Journal is what that magazine was called. And then some more, what is this? Trying to see. Yeah, just like letter. Oh, this is sorry, I remember. Okay. So this is like the letter of advocating from Marvel or Atlas to parents saying like our comics are safe to read, basically. And then here's some there's like a political cartoon about it. So not only are you getting like this great material by Dr. Vassallo, but you're getting a lot of these pictures and like historical documents and things that are amazing to see in their own right. The information though is absolutely incredible. I love the idea that if we own every Atlas Comics library by Fantagraphics, we're eventually going to have like the best historical document and information of Atlas Comics. I talk about this all the time on my channel about preserving comic book history and how important that is. So the fact that now 70 years after the fact, we're getting these great written pieces means that we're stamping a timeline in when a future generation that can learn these things and keeps this history going even forward into the future. So like me, I'm a young guy in my 30s. I'm learning about this stuff, and now I can hopefully perpetuate the history into the next generation and then go on, on and on and on. So now we're getting into the comics. This is Adventures in Terror, issue number 1. You get a great cover here. And then this is Total Effects Simile edition 2. You get all of the ads and everything, which is amazing. It's not just reprinting this to stories. But the comics themselves have been lovingly restored by... Sorry, I'm trying to find this other book here. By Alan Harvey. Alan Harvey is the guy that also did Atlas at War, this great book by Dead Reckoning. And this also was edited by Dr. Vassallo, art restoration by Alan Harvey. Those are the two that put this great book together that are also now doing the Atlas Comics library at Marvel. So the restoration you can see on the colors, let me zoom in a little bit more. It's not touched up. It's not recolored or restored like Marvel does, where they blow up the colors and make it almost like garish looking and like fully saturated colors. Like this is like lovingly restored to where it looks like as close to the original comics as possible, which I absolutely love. I talk about that all the time when I talk about like the Taschen reprints of Marvel and things. So it's great to be able to see this artwork done in this lovingly restored fashion, to where it's like I pulled these books off the stands back in the 1950s. Here's the cover to the next issue. And then all these funny ads too are great too, just to see like the prices of things or the crazy things they were selling. And I have to say, as far as the stories go, I will be critical that these are not as good as EC Comics. I think EC Comics were just, like the peak of the horror genre. And I think maybe Atlas Horror, unless it gets better from here on, I don't think it's going to be at the level of like an EC Comics. But they're still fun to read, and these are all just like short, like 6 to 8 page strips of different horror stories, one and done stories, filling the issues like you would get from an EC Comics, or even later on in the Warren mags, like Eerie and Creepy magazine, if you're familiar with those as well. All the covers are great. I love the treatment here. You can see that it's kind of mimicking of the EC style with the 3 different panels here, and then the cover with the title treatment. Here's a Russ Heath story. And it does get better as it goes on. Like these later stories in the later part of the books is a lot better when you get to like the Russ Heath. The Don Rico is an artist that I'm not super familiar with, but I kind of loved his work in reading this. The the Basil Wolverton story is great. Obviously, I love anything Basil did. And then Gene Colan. I mean, early Gene Colan artwork is a fun treat to see. And I love that the color on the covers is different too. Like this one's white. This has the hitchhiker story, which what's more terrifying than a creepy hitchhiker story? Like that's like a pinnacle of horror stories from forever, right? Trying to see if I spot any more. Return of the Brain. How about I pick out some of the Gene Colan on page 62. So this is early Gene Colan artwork. Oh, this is, I showed this one off. Early Gene Colan artwork, who would go on to do Tomb of Dracula, as well as like Daredevil. He had a long run on Daredevil and Captain America and things that I've loved all those runs. So that was great to see his early work and where he would eventually evolve into. Joe McNeely and Basil Wolverton are both in the same issue, which had to have been my favorite issue of this whole book. Once I find it here. All right. So this is Adventures in Terror, issue number 7, Where Monsters Dwell. And Joe McNeely, I think, is the second artist included on here. 165 is Joe McNeely. Oh, here we go. So Joe McNeely, if you don't know his story, he was a great artist, probably Stan Lee's favorite artist to work with in the Atlas era. And then he tragically passed away when he was 32. And it is said like the next day or the day after is when Jack Kirby came back to Marvel after his short stint in DC and his short stint on Sky Masters of the Space Force, the newspaper strip, which I have a video on my channel. But it's like one of the great what ifs is, what if Joe McNeely had lived, and what would the Marvel Silver Age look like? You know, if he had survived and worked maybe in tandem with Jack Kirby on some things. And then the Basil Wolverton, yeah, this is Basil Wolverton right here. Which I think, yeah, Fantagraphics I think has reprinted the story in some of the Basil Wolverton collections. But I just love his figure drawing and like the line work as far as like the backgrounds and things. Like all the lines he would draw for shading on these characters, such a Basil Wolverton tick. And then like the morph face right here. Yeah, Basil Wolverton was just great. So then you get the 8th issue, and in the back here, we get all the bios of all the creators that were involved throughout this entire collection. And then that's it. That's the back. So this is Adventures into Terror, the first of the Atlas Comics library by Marvel, or by Fantagraphics, I'm sorry. First Atlas Comics library by Fantagraphics in conjunction with Marvel. I don't have volumes 2 and 3 yet. I need to pick those up. That was Venus and Day of the Rockets. But I do have volume 4, which is their War Comics collection, which I'll be showing off next month. I think that comes out in November, but I got an early advanced copy of that, so I'll be showing that off. Thank you guys for joining me. Please subscribe and hit the like button and comment down below. Hitting the like button and commenting down below helps the YouTube algorithm put my channel and my videos in front of the eyeballs of people that don't know my channel exists. So that kind of helps up the subscriber count and the view count, which is all very much appreciated by me. I'm trying to get to 3,000 subscribers. It's my goal to hit that by the end of this year. So you guys can help me out with that. And stay tuned, because tomorrow there'll be another horror comic to show off. Keep talking comics.